Like. You can shoot from it, what? Don't dribble. It's so scratched. I already read this. And we're live. All right, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I am pleased to call the public meeting of the Victoria and Esquimalt Police Board, April 15th, to order, right on time at 5 p.m. I'm going to start by handing it over to my colleague, Sean Dillon, for our territorial acknowledgement.
Thank you very much, Michaela. I want to first of all thank our Indigenous brothers and sisters for allowing us to conduct our work that we do here in their lands. Communities of Songs and Esquimalt nations, people speak both the Lusanic and the Sechalkan languages of the great community that we call Victoria and Esquimalt. We always try to think about reconciliation. What does that mean? I always try to think about successes that we had in the community. And what that brings to me is last week, Chief Manic had an opportunity to meet with Michelle Martin, the mother of Chantal Moore, who was unfortunately passed away back in Brunswick some years ago. And Michelle Martin also lost her son 5 months later after that tragic incident. And Ms. Martin bestowed upon some of the members of our department a yellow dress, which was Chantal's favorite color, and yellow particularly. And the whole idea was basically to showcase the support and the work that the co-response unit, co-response mental health unit, as they call it, it's different acronyms for it, but basically the idea is that we're basically having individuals who have training in mental health supports and empathy to respond to certain calls. And I want to thank and honor Ms. Martin for her acknowledgement and for her faith in the department. And I want to thank the Chief Manager as well and the team and senior leaders who are also supporting them in order to continue building relationships. Because when you think about it, that incident happened across the country. However, Chantal Moore was an Islander. She was from Port Alberni, and Ms. Martin to Victoria. And as such, Islanders do look after each other. I feel that this is something that we will carry that going forward. In addition, I want to acknowledge the fact that recently, two recent women were recovered from prairie landfill, I believe, in north of Winnipeg. And I want to thank the officers there, the community in Winnipeg, the public service leaders, the community for not giving up and listening to their community and really trying to find ways to bring healing to the harm that's come to their women, especially those of Mercedes Myron and Morgan Harris, whose names we never forget. So I want to acknowledge that in my acknowledgement today that despite what we do here on Esquimalt, on these nations, the work that we do reverberates across the country. We are, in essence, in lockstep of solidarity, comfort, and we're trying to do whatever reconciliation healing we can, either locally, nationally.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to just look around for any declarations of conflict of interest. Being done, thank you. I'll move to an adoption of the public agenda of April 15th, 2025. And seconded by Elizabeth. Any errors, changes, omissions, additions? Being none. All those in favor? Great, motion carries. Thank you. And I will look for an adoption of the public minutes of March 11th, 2025. Elizabeth, seconded by Marianne. Changes of omissions, seeing none. All those in favor? Thank you very much. For the board chair update, this isn't new public news, but I'll just share briefly in a public session that the police board has concluded our many months process of selecting a new chief constable for the Victoria Police Department.
haven't been paying attention to the news, I will advise that that is Deputy Chief Fiona Wilson coming from the Vancouver Police Department. She will join us in August for a 2-week overlap with Chief Manick and be sworn in at the end of the month. I want to take an opportunity to acknowledge all of the many community members, members of the department and membership and civilian staff who took an opportunity to engage with the board. I'm really pleased with the process that we went through. We had a very thorough, clean, tight process with a lot of robust consultation and a lot of opportunities to engage and hear what people were looking for, and I appreciate that. I also want to acknowledge again how many fantastic candidates that we had and the quality of the candidates that were attracted to the Victoria Police Department. I think that's a testament to the department that we have here. I think it's a testament to all the people in the room and to all the people who've been working here for a long time. So I really want to take a moment to acknowledge and appreciate that, and also give a special shout out to our committee who worked on this really tirelessly and hard and put a lot of effort in. So thank you to everybody for that. That is my board chair update, and now I will move on to committee updates. Page 3 first. Finance. I'm still just getting the first page. Email it to me and SharePoint, I'm still getting one of one. But yes, finance can go ahead, recognizing that I don't have the full agenda.
So I'll turn it over to Donna now. There's a couple of items of the finance committee report. On starting with the Q1 financial report.
Yeah, item A, Q1 financial report. It was as at March 24th, 2025. At that time, we were on target. I think it was approximate 24% target. We were at 21.6, going by memory. The budget has been amended in this report to remove the items that are under appeal or will be appealed in the 2025 budget. So that's the new resources and the late night task force. Budget's also been amended to add the phasing in of the 2023 appeal decision items. That included 3 officers for a hire date of September 1st, a records archivist for a hire date of June 1st, building maintenance, and some professional services in the amount of $370,000. So that included Indigenous engagement and PIA. Some other amounts. And then the finance committee discussed statement 3 overages. They're mentioned in the cover letter. So the salaries and civilian salaries, exempt civilian salaries, and the benefits will be reviewed for the next report. They were trending slightly over the target. And the auxiliaries were also over, and this is due to backfilling of vacancies where the budget is under the salary lines in the areas of records, the Esquimalt division, and the jailers. So that I'll just keep an eye on for future reports. I think that's it. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Okay.
Want me to go to the next one? Item B,
Third fund report.
annual reserve fund. So this is a report. We were due to have a report to the board on the PD reserve funds. I'd seen one in a little while. And we did draw down from our financial stability reserve for the 2024 operating deficit. So this report basically summarizes the reserve types and purposes and reports on 2024 changes and the year-end balances. And it's important to note that I did confirm with Suzanne Thompson that the Employee Benefit Obligation Fund is fully funded as at December 31st, 2024. So that's the fund to use for retirements, and it's actuarially adjusted at the end of every year. So we're okay there. And at the end of my report, I just commented on a couple of insights from the reserves, the standing of the reserves. The first one is just the importance of regularly monitoring the budgets and the variances. And the second part was just potentially budgeting for contributions to the reserves. Now, this may not be viable in the near future, given the budget restrictions, but certainly we can ensure that the financial results are in the black. So this is going to be critical. That ties back to regularly monitoring the budgets. So that's under my division's responsibility. This means that the budget should be accurate. So for the 2026 budget, I'll look at things such as, you know, what's our benefit loading factor or benefits, employee benefits, that type of thing, which will really have an impact on whether or not we have a surplus or a deficit at the end of 2025. So that'll be for 2026. I will look at that. I'll be doing an analysis of that factor. I think that's all I wanted to highlight for that report.
Questions? Thank you for clearing that, that subject area in our budget up. Work that you did with the city, that is much easier to understand now. I really appreciate that. Item number C is refers to a letter from this township of Esquimalt. We received it March 3rd, and it was a decision not to approve the 7 new positions and the late night task force funding in our budget. So those, as we just mentioned, are not in our revised 2025 budget because they are going to be under appeal. You may recall that we decided to pull out the late night task force and do ask the ADM Director of Police Services to do an expedited review of under Section 27. And there's been correspondence going back and forth. I won't bore you with all the details on it, but we're going through the process. Right now, the deadline is to provide some more information by April 28th. The positions of both the township and the board have been shared with each other, so we all know what the arguments are for and against it. So that will continue to work its way through the system and have an answer on that one. But with respect to the other 7 positions, the Finance Committee has a motion there, which is that we recommend to the board that we have a Section 27 letter be drafted as an appeal and submitted to the Public Safety and Solicitor General for the 7 positions that we were not approved by the township. And just for information, like the City of Victoria did approve those 7 positions, because both didn't, we were in advance until the decision had been made. So that proposal will be going forward. We're now drafting our request, and that will be completed. And I think that brings us down to.
Can I just ask you a quick question? Do you have any sense of what an expedited Section 27 appeal would look like from the director?
I have no idea, and I see our deputy chief just shaking his head, so probably, but this is fast. I mean, the answers, the letters we got back were much quicker than the experience I had with the 2023 Section 27 appeal, so. On that. There is also some good news. See if I'm in the right place in the agenda. Some good news in finance. We received over $1 million grant for counter radicalization to violence. And I'm wondering who might explain exactly what that is.
I can turn that over to Inspector Connor King, and Inspector King and Director Donna Phillips prepared the bulk of the grant request, and it is a great success to receive over $1 million. There is some parameters of course, what it can be used for, but it's certainly well within the mandate and the work expectations of the Victoria Police Department in some areas. So turn it over to Inspector King to share with us some of the good news in conjunction with Director Phillips.
I'll just say we've received the money, $1,070,000. It's sitting in our financial stability reserve in a subsection of the financial stability reserve. And we've also set up a new business unit in our operating budget for tracking expenditures. There's no timeline on spending. And also we're referring to it as the Community Resilience Fund, which was CRF instead of the CRV, Counter Radicalization to Violence, as 2 terms or acronyms seem to be interchangeable. So we picked the nicer one.
So I'll just provide just a little bit of additional information. So there are a number of police agencies here in British Columbia that are participants in what's called a public order critical incident working group. We work in concert with policing security branch to share information about public order events, as well as incidents of hate crime. And it was through this group that we received the communication that there was a funding opportunity. Essentially, the funds began with the federal government from Public Safety Canada. They informed us that essentially the spirit of the funds were to address the situation that we've actually discussed numerous times in this meeting, which is this new era that we're dealing with respect to public order events that have a linkage to hate crimes, that have a linkage to radicalized thoughts, that have a linkage to geopolitical events, certainly what's happening in the Ukraine and what's happening in Gaza, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a bit of a Frankenstein of concepts that have all been pulled together. And there were various streams where we were able to access different allotments of these funds. So as you can see in your board report, I won't go into an enormous amount of detail, but we did receive $300,000 for public order events, which we have licensed to use with a great deal of latitude. That includes training, equipment, and overtime. Now, for me, this is the single biggest success because our public order unit has, as you can imagine, after 78 weeks of continued deployments, become very strained with respect to overtime, very restrained with respect to lack of officers that are receiving adequate training. Some of our commanders have retired, and the equipment, the wear and tear on the equipment is intense. So this is a great opportunity to essentially bolster them, as well as the operational planning section of the Victoria Police, which provides a sort of a strategic cohesion of our deployments. And we are able to use those funds for equipment to support and train them as well. The other areas, we received $30,000 that we can allocate towards hate crime response, including training our hate crimes officers. We received $100,000, which we are able to spend on crime prevention through environmental design, otherwise known as CEPTED. This is specific to places of worship, so synagogues, churches, mosques, etc. And again, this speaks to the climate that we're in, where we have been frequently called by members of the various religious communities concerned about the safety of their congregation as well as their physical buildings. And so there are interesting parameters on how we can spend this money. We can't spend it on training our officers on CEPTED principles, but we can spend it on equipment that can be deployed at these physical locations. So that's second last. The last is we received $125,000 for security threat and risk assessments for elected and public officials. This is an interesting one insofar as, of course, the provincial legislature sits in the jurisdiction of the Victoria Police Department. When there is a threat to a member of the Legislative Assembly, for instance, we often are tasked with investigating those threats. So we were able to access these kind of extraordinary funds to facilitate those investigations. At the same time, if the Saanich Police, Hope Bay, or Central Saanich Police want to engage in an investigation similarly on a public official in their jurisdiction, they can access those funds by coming through us, and we will be able to help fund their investigations. We will do all of these investigations in concert with the Sergeant of Arms at the provincial legislature. And then the final funding was that the Victoria Police will be holding $500,000 for use by the Sergeant at Arms to fund deployment of the public safety unit when it is in support of the safety of the provincial legislature. As we know, many of our protests over the last 77 weeks have occurred at the legislature, and they have been able to do some cost recovery. This will allow the legislature to have this now the funds available, and they can spend as they see fit. And often that will be to pay for policing overhead costs. So all in all, I think we can agree a successful outcome, and certainly it'll put our public safety unit in a place where they can get better equipped, better funded, or better trained, and have a brighter future.
Great. Thank you. And I just, again, wanted to say thank you to you and Director Phillips for this very, very, very tight timelines that we were provided for this. It was in a very quick turnaround that you gathered the information. Of course, we have reporting conditions as well that we need to report back to government on what and how we've been spending money for each of the streams that have been.
Thank you. And I guess I don't have to say, as Director of Finance, I'm always happy when I see that more money is coming in as revenue, but it's great. And so thank you very much to all the staff that identified the opportunity and put together with a very successful application for the funds. I'm sure it will be well used and will improve public safety in our community. That's it for finance, unless I've missed something.
That's a motion. You pass a motion.
We didn't pass the motion, I'm sorry, I got busy talking about other things. So we do have a motion on, I did have somebody move it, Sean, and a seconder. And so the motion is around the section 27, the 7 items. So is there any further discussion?
Excuse me. Just a question. As we're waiting for the section 27 to go through, what are the operational implications?
If they're not approved, they are not out, the positions are not filled. We can't hire, we can't fill. The questions? All the motion, all the favor? That is it.
Question on the difference. Question to the deputy chief. In your discussion of the $170,000. You referenced some funds to do risk assessment for public officials, and you specifically spoke to the legislature and provincial MLAs. Is there room in that budget to do similar risk assessments for other orders of government?
Remember if it's named in.
The spending of those funds does have to occur in concert with the sergeant at arms. And I believe that they are designed at the outset for those purposes. But to be honest with you, we still need to really hammer out the parameters. There might be latitude, we just haven't fully explored it yet. It all came together so fast. My goal was to get the money into the bank account and then figure out the playbook after.
Thank you for that.
Oh, sorry.
Again, I echo.
Yep.
I attended Martin's presentation, which my colleague described quite well. And with other board members and also these high school students and look at opportunities down the road for themselves. They really connected. But I attended and was the Oklahoma City Conference 2025. And it was quite an interesting conference for reasons. There were a number of panels with very interesting speakers and questions asked. One of the things so that we were provided with was a pin with like a pride pin. And made me realize that it's the small things that we do that show people we're welcome. And I was in a restaurant and I had the pin on my vest. And there was a couple sitting a couple tables over. And they made a point of coming over to say to me, thank you. Thank you for helping us feel welcome in this community. And they were, so I chatted a little bit, they were visiting from the States, so certainly they had some concerns and reservations. They were, and being able to be who they were, where they lived. And so I thought that was very interesting, and it's just like, it's just a small little thing. The other thing that I thought was quite insightful was that there were a lot of questions around cultural sensitivity, use of force, racial profiling, that kind of thing. And I know that the department has done a lot in terms of training and opportunities in that regard. But I recall a public report that was released on use of force stats. And in that report, it indicated that PD was in line with the numbers in terms of use of force against particular cultural groups, was consistent with other jurisdictions across the city. And I guess the question that I had, or thought that I had, was, well, that's not good enough. And so I kind of want to put it out there in terms of, you know, what could we do as a department to make it so that we're better in terms of using use of force with disadvantaged groups less often than other municipalities.
Is that a question then?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think I'll point out that we consistently are interacting with the public on a daily basis, and a micro percentage of 1% is the amount of force or the number of times we're using force against any member of the community, regardless of where they're from or what their background might be. This is a topic that has been raised by the BC Human Rights Commissioner because we actually do not gather specific information as it relates to somebody's background as part of a use of force. So there was recently a request for data that was provided to all police agencies in BC, which then had to be manually extracted because there is no way to just easily gather that information. I suspect there could be a day in the future where the provincial government, because they're the one who mandates how we collect use of force data, it's very strict on what we gather. I suspect there could be a time at some point in the future where that is updated. It has been in some provinces, not all. Where we then can see the data a little bit more clearly. But it is not the easiest thing to be able to extrapolate when you have to do it, of course, manually and not digitally to pull the information out. So I'm very proud of the work that we do and our officers on very challenging situations every single day and use no force whatsoever. There is times when it does happen, of course. And it's something that we, you know, fair and equitable policing is something we take seriously. And it's that VIC-PD was a leader in building the provincial program for that. And we have 3 experts within our building who are actually trained the trainers for the entire province of every police agency. So with that, I'll leave it with that at this point, but it is something where I think we have done a very good job and we continue to do a very good job and we continue to move forward and improving.
I just thought it was important to mention because it was an issue that was raised from several individuals who were members of the at that particular city conference. And I did read the use of force stats report that we had in terms of not everybody necessarily had that. But I think it ended up to be, when I looked at it, maybe 8 cases. Although it's 1%, it's still, you know, for the people who were there, who maybe experienced it or had family members experienced it, it's traumatic. As we certainly was evidence in the presentation by Martin.
Thank you very much, Dale. Barbara, so I had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm going to be attending and I invite everyone to attend Thursday night at the Esquimalt curling rink, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Business crime and fraud prevention presentation. And there'll be business crime and fraud awareness, cyber crime and credit card fraud, graffiti awareness, and crime prevention through environmental design. And of course, there will be refreshments, so we welcome anyone to attend.
Thank you very much. Any other community, board member engagement to bring forward? Thank you very much. I will move on to item G, BC Association of Police Board update. So I will provide you a quick update. We are almost at our conference date. I've been trying to go to for ages and it's just a couple weeks away now. So we are very much looking forward to gathering as a group and discussing a lot of important topical issues. One of the things that BCAPB has been doing in the past few months is working a lot with PPSM, which I know we're not using acronyms, so I looked it up. Policing and Public Safety Modernization Initiative. So we've had an opportunity to engage with them on a number of different items that they're looking to bring forward and in terms of governance protocols that they'll lay out. So we had a significant meeting on a code of conduct for police boards throughout the province, and they'll be looking to build something out that is consistent throughout. I appreciate the opportunity to engage more meaningfully with the province. We've had some experiences with them where they sort of bring us in at the last minute to check a box, and we gave them some strong feedback and they listened to that. So we've had some really robust engagement. I don't love the idea of codes of conduct, but I really value it as a board member and in the capacity as vice president of BCAPB. There's an opportunity for board members to consistently behave in a certain way, to be held to certain standards, to have some accountability. I think there's been a lot of challenges throughout the province related to inconsistent board member behavior, and I've had an opportunity to recognize how that impacts department senior leadership and chiefs, and I think there's a real opportunity for improvement, so I appreciate that. Also just give an advance shout out to Inspector Connor King, who is going to come and present at the BCAPB conference. So we're really looking forward to having him there representing Big PD. I will get to introduce him and I'm going to do a really good job. It'll probably be like better than the presentation.
Wow.
I just teasing. And then now I will move on to Canadian Association of Police Governance update. I had an opportunity today to spend some time on a Zoom meeting with board chairs and executive directors and support staff from across the country, where we could we meet every other month to talk about any issues that anybody brings forward and sort of hear what everybody is doing. So I really value the opportunity to do that. We're also getting ready for our conference in August. That will be held here sort of right after CACP. So we'll be looking forward to that. And Canadian Association of Police Governance is continuing in its commitment to deliver national training modules. We'll have them ready by August. So the Canadian Police Knowledge Network is building those for us. They'll include various models from sort of governance 101 all the way through to some more legislative governance and practical issues. There'll be a specific model for First Nations policing governance. So this education will be designed to complement any provincial education that exists for everybody throughout the province, and it'll just standardize some knowledge available to people on what their governance role is. My two updates. So I will move on to item H, our chief constable update.
Great. Thank you, Chair. So just a couple of things, and it's been mentioned a couple of times already, but I just don't want to overlook the Martha Martin presentation. Our co-responder team has been in place for a couple of years now and has been extremely successful. It has been modeled now in other agencies throughout British Columbia. It's been that significant, and there truly was an inspiration and a connection with Martha Martin and the connection she made with Chief Manick. And I don't want to overlook just the importance of Chief Manick taking the time to meet with Miss Martin when, you know, talking about something that really didn't occur here, but being able to find a better way. And the fact that also Miss Martin wanted to channel, of course, a positive out of something very negative and tragic that happened in her life and her family. And how we've been able to embrace that and do that here, but also it's been replicated in other places within British Columbia. So it is a very positive, story that's come out of a very sad situation. And I thank you for those who were able to attend. And I know those who weren't here were able to see a lot of media coverage on the event, and it was very well done. And it was very kind of Ms. Martin to come and want to present to Chief Manick as well as to our co-responding teams, which of course involved police as well as mental health nurses. And she was very much wanted to present to both. So I just wanted to highlight that again. It was very impactful and very important. A couple of file updates. The first is just a file that you wouldn't automatically think of as a police file, but I do want to share that on April the 11th in the mid-afternoon, just before 3 o'clock, a building that was under construction in the Government and Herald area had a collapse where the second floor collapsed onto itself. And your initial thought would be probably the same as mine. That's police. What do the police have to do with that? That sounds like a fire and an ambulance type matter, as well as work safe, and some engineers. We actually had a very significant response to that. When an accident like that happens in an industrial site or a building site, if there's an injury, a serious injury, police are actually dispatched to that. In this particular case, we're fortunate there wasn't any serious injuries. But then there's the secondary case, which is the need in an area like that for significant traffic control, and which requires a whole lot of police frontline resources. So I only raise that not because it's the most significant file that we've dealt with in the last several weeks. I raise it just because I want to remind the board, remind members of the public, there's all kinds of things that you wouldn't necessarily think involve the police, which all of a sudden take up 4 or 5 police resources to actually address and deal with for hours and hours and hours, while the other agencies are doing their role and we're working in concert with them. On the heels of Mayor Desjardins' invitation to the fraud business crime and fraud seminar occurring in Esquimalt on Thursday. You may have seen a media release we did recently about a person using counterfeit currency in order to make some purchases. Most of these purchases were online, and then a subsequent investigation and search warrant yielded a fairly large amount, over $10,000 in counterfeit currency. This is something we don't actually see a lot of anymore. This was something we used to see quite frequently. Most frauds seem to have occurred in a different format nowadays, with either credit cards or phone scams and things like that. But it is something that is still out there, and the steps and the work that was done to uncover this. And in this case, we actually had a very specific victim who had sold a specific item to this person, and we were able to get that and give that back to the person, and that in itself, I think, is some success. And then finally, on that was my last update for that. And then just on the fraud seminar, please, if you are planning to attend, members of the public, please make sure you are registering in advance so we have some sense of how many are going to be there. I know, Mary, you're going to be there, and I think you're going to be there as well, probably, if I saw the agenda.
Yes, I am.
Okay, excellent, wonderful. So, and many of us will be there as well. So look forward to seeing you.
Thank you very much. Is there anything specific you want to add to the equity, diversity, and inclusion update, or it's?
No, it's in the package provided by the chief. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I knew I had one other. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Tanya. So at our last board meeting, there was just a brief update regarding some recruiting, and more specifically recruiting around women in policing. And there was a full campaign that we did in trying to enhance and build the number of female applicants we were receiving. And there was some good success that came out of that. But the campaign itself was actually also evaluated by the Canadian Public Relations Society. And that campaign is being awarded a National Award of Excellence. So this will be happening in May. There's an event where the award will be presented, and it's excellent work by our CED team as well as our human resources team to help make all that happen. And obviously, the campaign itself was viewed as a success, not just by us, but by others. So congratulations. Very well done.
Now we've got the mental health and wellness roadmap, and I regret that I don't know who is speaking to this.
I can touch on.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank
So you'll see the mental health and wellness roadmap in your package. It is something that is continually updated, typically quarterly. Sometimes it just depends. Not every topic is updated. And I'm just going to highlight two quick pieces of it. One, you'll see an update there on the Helio sleep clinic. And that has been approved. That actually rollout has started. So there is a rollout happening on that where people can enroll and be part of a sleep clinic to try and, of course, get their sleep patterns in order. And I won't go into the science of it because I certainly is well beyond my background to understand it. But it is something that we are working with and trying to see if there's some advantages that can be gained from it. And then the second one, and this is by far the biggest, is of course our Minds Matter survey. So that is now closed. It has been concluded, and our psychologists are currently gathering the information to then be able to present it to both the senior leadership team, and I expect the board, after that. One of the key components of the Our Mind Matters survey, if you remember, is one, to establish a baseline. So where is everybody at? How are we doing? And then two, when we are introducing new programs, such as the Helio Sleep Clinic, trying to be able to have some sort of an evaluation on what's effective and what's not effective over the course of a period of time. So that is why it was so important to have a survey that is repeatable and that is trackable over the course of years, so that we can see how we're doing and how the improvements or not. And if we need to make changes to programs we're providing, how can we make those changes? What adjustments can we make?
Thanks for that. I appreciate that. And I actually didn't know that the Our Minds Matter survey had started. So I'm pleased to hear it started and that it's concluded. Do you know when you expect to hear about it and when the board can expect to hear about it?
I know I haven't heard about it yet.
Okay.
I know that it's just recently concluded. If I recall, I remember they wanted a month or two to be able to gather. They thought it would take a couple months to just kind of build all the information the way they wanted it, but I don't know for sure, but I don't expect it will be that long.
Okay, and I think it would be valuable for the board to hear about it soon after. And also I want to make sure that there's a recognition that the union was part of the discussion in this, so that they're presented the information in a timely manner as well, and whatever senior leadership thinks is appropriate related to that, but just that they're not missed out from the reporting piece of this. Okay, thank you very much. We have an e-com update, page 45. I think this is just for information. We have our March and April updates. I'm not sure if there's any questions or comments related to it. It's pretty simple. Well, usually when I say this early, someone tells me I missed something, but I think that we're done, and I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Seconded. Thank you, Tim. All those in favor? Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night. Connor, I'm just kidding. You're gonna be way better than me.
I didn't even, yeah, I was like so speechless. I don't know what to say.